You're listening to Tax Talks, bringing you the news that matters. And today, we're diving into a big shift in Canadian policy, the removal of the federal carbon tax on consumer fuels. What's changed, what's better, and what challenges lie ahead? On April 1st, the Canadian government removed the federal carbon tax on consumer fuels, something that's already making waves across the country. Many Canadians are concerned about what the recent consumer carbon tax cut means for the climate and the economy. Hi, I'm Gurneet Sangha, and lucky for you, we're here to provide answers. This federal fuel charge was implemented under the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act. This act is a two-part carbon pricing system set in motion to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The first part placed a charge on fossil fuels such as natural gas. The second part implemented an output-based pricing system for large industries that contribute to carbon pollution. This consumer carbon tax cut has eliminated the federal fuel charge while maintaining the output-based pricing system, which marks a major shift. Instead of placing the burden upon the consumer during times when the cost of living is skyrocketing, the focus now shifts to large industrial polluters. Now, what about climate change? For all the environmentally conscious Canadians, there's no need to worry. The consumer carbon tax cut isn't a retreat from climate action. Among his many proposed strategies, Prime Minister Mark Carney plans to tighten the already existing output-based pricing system, which will target industrial polluters who remain some of the largest contributors to Canada's greenhouse gas emissions. This means, while the policy may be shifting, Canada's climate goals remain firmly in place.
Canada just ended its carbon tax on consumer fuel on April 1st, 2025. And this change stirs up debates on the balance of the cost efficiency and environmental protection. Implemented since 2019, the federal carbon tax on consumer fuels aims to encourage people to use less and switch to cleaner energy options. According to the Canadian Climate Institute, this tax helped reduce Canada's emissions by up to 50%. While most families get money back through a carbon rebate every few months, the rising inflation has nonetheless put much pressure on a lot of families. This is why the federal government decided to cut this tax to give its people some financial relief. However, the industrial carbon tax on large emitters still remains as it seems as more effective in reducing carbon emission. Despite removing the carbon tax on consumer fuels, Canada still continues implementing strong climate policies. For instance, the introduction of rebates for electric vehicles or better home insulation to align with its emission reduction goals.
Hey, this is Brianna Laird, and I think this is such an interesting policy because there are a lot of pros and cons. Let's start with what many Canadians are already feeling, some real financial relief. First, let's talk dollars and cents. Canadians are now paying less at the pump. Gas prices dropped by about 10 to 15 cents per litre in many provinces, saving the average driver hundreds of dollars a year. Natural gas bills have fallen too, by around 13%, which is a welcome change for households trying to stay warm without breaking the bank. This is especially important for rural and northern Canadians, where heating is a major household expense. That's definitely a meaningful change for commuters, families, and small businesses dealing with tight budgets. This means a typical family could save more than $500 a year on fuel alone. But it's not just fuel. Overall, energy prices are down, and that's helping cool inflation. Canada's inflation rate dropped to 1.7% in April, thanks in large part to lower energy prices. This is good news for anyone dealing with financial stress by the rising cost of groceries and home heating. And don't forget about the Canada Carbon Rebate. Even though the tax is gone, families received their final quarterly rebate in April. In Alberta, a family of 4 got over $450, money meant to help with energy costs. Rural families got even more. Now, what about the environment? The government says it's not backing down on climate action. While the consumer tax is gone, carbon pricing for big industry stays. Experts believe that with smart policies like targeting methane and boosting clean energy, we can still hit Canada's climate targets. So, the positives include lower bills, slower inflation, and a new direction for climate policy. It's a big shift, and one that's just the beginning.
But behind those short-term savings are some long-term questions. Hi, I'm Jasmine Wahid, and I'm here to break down the real consequences behind the removal of the federal consumer carbon tax. Now, as Brianna pointed out earlier, there were some financial benefits, but let's take a closer look. Most Canadian households actually received more in carbon tax rebates than they ever paid in the tax itself. The system was designed to protect lower and middle income families, so when the tax was removed, those rebates disappeared too. And guess what that means? Inflationary pressure. The people those rebates were meant to support in lower and middle income households are now left to deal with the cost, while the financial guard they once had has now disappeared. But hold on, it doesn't stop there. If you thought losing a rebate was rough, imagine watching the greenhouse gas emissions start going up in the blink of an eye. Without the carbon tax in place, we lose an important tool that helps reduce emissions over time. And perhaps the biggest hit Canada could take? The removal of the federal carbon price on the natural gas used for home heating. That means Canada's hard effort to fight climate change just took a big step backwards. So while some may feel like a short-term relief, we could all be facing a long, bumpy road ahead. What do you think about the recent changes? You've been listening to Tax Talks. Stay tuned for more updates on how Canada's changing policies are shaping your day-to-day life. Thanks for joining us.